Hello, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Jarbawi, and I'm the Regional Director for Mercy Corps for the Middle East. I have been working as the Regional Director for the past 3 years, and prior to that I was the Country Director in Iraq. I have been in the sector for over 17 years, and I hope that my testimony today can show you a little bit of the insights of the experience I have gained growing up within the humanitarian domain. In the Middle East, Mercy Corps covers 6 countries: Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, Iraq, and Yemen. With UK Aid, we work with both the household level and the community level. Humanitarian programs predominantly focus on a household level, and what we try to do is make sure that we're building on the resilience of families as they go through repeated shocks or as they go through the protracted effect of those shocks. We are with them side by side to make sure that they are surviving the shock, but also thriving to be able to build a better today and tomorrow for them and for their family members. As for the community level, we work with, example, refugees and host communities to make sure that tensions are reduced to enhance stability in that community. We also work with youth that are usually seen by community members as a force of negative rather than a force of positive, and we try to work with them to change that dynamic, again, to ensure that as a community there is momentum for further and forward growth. We're changing the lives of those that we serve by recognizing their sense of agency and the potential that they have in changing their own reality. What we do with UK Aid is recognize that people's potential and people's strength is affected by the circumstances they live under. And if we work together to change the circumstances, then those people can thrive on their own. The idea of the change that happens is working hand in hand with them, with the generous contributions of UK Aid to either break the barriers that they're facing or figure out creative workarounds. What makes an effective aid project is, first and foremost, one that honors the dignity, the choice, and the potential of those that we serve. And I cannot overstate the importance of this. The second one is a project that meets people halfway rather than come from the top down saying, here's the solution to your problem. And in that sense, it is very important to always walk in with a positive angle in understanding what the strengths and the already built-in resilience the families and communities have and built on that, rather than always coming in and saying, what are your vulnerabilities and why do you feel weak? The third one is accountability. Accountability to those that we serve. We come in, we're putting a lot of time, effort, and resources into projects that need to be effective and have impact. And the only people that could tell us that those projects are impactful are those that are receiving them. So it's important to make sure that we're accountable to those that we serve. It is very important that we are also accountable to our standard operating procedures to make sure that programs are run with compliance and the integrity required. We are accountable to the governments that we work under and in the communities where we serve. And finally, we are always accountable to the taxpayers that have generated the generous contributions that allow us to be able to do programs in the field. And finally, it is important that all of the programs that we are running, it's important to have them be measurable and have evidence that is concrete, that allows us to tell a story of what we have done, but most importantly, it allows us to learn, reiterate, and be better when we do it the next time. I would like to answer the question in two ways. The first one with more of a bird's eye view. And in that front, in a world that is now filled with political considerations, I do think that it's very important for us to always keep the humanitarian imperative alive and look beyond it. The problems that we are trying to solve today have become far, far more complex for a simple solution or a time-bound solution. And rather, what they require is a multi-pronged approach where foreign assistance is given to communities at the granular level through the work of organizations such as Mercy Corps, but at the same time working hand in hand with diplomacy to make sure that we're moving away from this notion of managing a crisis to actually solving the crisis. The second one is, I do feel right now and in this time and era, we have the liberty and the freedom to start thinking differently of what aid is. Previously, aid was under this pretext of it is the savior. We come in to help those poor people. And I do think that now we have a vastly different we should have a vastly different perspective on it, and rather should come in with that humble approach of partnering with those that we are trying to serve because of the importance of their sense of agency, the power that they carry, the resilience that they have, and the expertise and potential that they always have with them, irrespective of what shocks they've gone under. And in that sense, it brings to the forefront the conversation of localization. How does it look like, and how do we make it more effective, not only for us as a funding stream, but also in terms of impact? I share this with you in a very humble way because I myself am a Palestinian. And so I grew up in a context that was continues until today to rely on foreign assistance. And despite all of the odds of living under occupation and having to go through multiple crises during my childhood, I am here today sitting with you, speaking as a leader in an international agency, looking across multiple other crises and looking on how we can be more effective in our programming to those that need it the most. All of this came from a sense of potential and different people or different systems throughout my life recognizing that I am not a poor, depressed, weak Palestinian, but rather a strong, empowered woman that just requires a break or a breakthrough of a barrier in order to succeed. That's exactly what we're trying to do in a system level approach, and that would be the power of foreign assistance moving forward. The second way that I would like to answer this question is precisely and specifically to the Middle East. I do think that in the Middle East we're facing multiple shocks. COVID-19 has exacerbated those shocks, but the main ones that we're looking at, first and foremost, is a shrinking middle class. And by a shrinking middle class, it's not the upper class that is increasing, but rather it's the poor class that is increasing. And so we have a commitment of looking not only on vulnerabilities that are from a humanitarian shock, but rather poverty, and how would we start alleviating that. The second one is unemployment. This region is known for youth and highly educated youth. And we know that by 2025, we're going to have the highest number of educated youth being unemployed in this region. The Middle East is required to create 300 million jobs by 2050 in order to be able to survive. COVID is putting 1.7 million jobs out by 2020 alone. And so the challenge of tackling unemployment is a real one and will continue to be a real one. The third one is a feeble social contract in this part of the world, where grievances from citizens are going to continue to increase as governments try to deal with a shock of COVID, a shock of an oil crisis, inability of potentially being able to provide the services that they have always provided. This leading to more of a displacement or a movement from rural to urban centers, where secondary cities are going to become prime targets of dissatisfaction, because more people are going there, and government services is not going to suffice. And so this is going to enhance this notion of conflict and tension at a very granular level, and also at a large level where you might continue to see protests and manifestations against governments such as the ones that we're seeing today, even under COVID in Iraq and in Lebanon. And then finally, and most importantly, climate change. And climate change in the Middle East is water change, really, in essence. And it's a conversation that has not attracted as much attention as required because, of course, the eye sees conflict first. But it is very important for us to not move our focus away from a water dearth region that is going to continue to become water dearth, causing those tensions and conflict to further magnify.